In business today, three things to know. First, the weather as a scapegoat for lousy economic news. Is the economy frozen for real? Then, higher fuel standards are ordered by President Obama. Did the price of your next truck just go up? And the CEO of a company working to keep your kids safe by making sure you know where they are. The head of Amber Alert GPS is here. Arise XChange starts now. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Schmertz. It is being called the frozen economy. First, well, because winter has been brutal throughout a good part of the country. Cold weather and lots of snow, especially in the Northeast. The other, because the economic growth appears to be stuck. Today, home builder confidence fell dramatically this month compared to January, which had a very good month. And a key measurement of general business conditions in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut also showed that factory activity fell across the board. The markets opened up Tuesday after a long weekend, so let's take a look at how they finished. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 25 to 16,130. The S&P 500 eking out a gain, and the Nasdaq up a little better than 0.5% to 42.72. Taking a look at stocks we're watching today. Boeing says Everett, Washington is the site to build the wings for its new 777X aircraft, keeping thousands of new jobs in the area. Construction on the new Boeing facility located north of its Everett factory is expected to begin later this year. Boeing closing up 39 cents to 130.55. Global pharmaceutical company Actavis will buy New York-based Forest Labs in a $25 billion deal. Actavis, based in Dublin, Ireland, says it will pay Forest shareholders a mix of both cash and stock for the company. Forest Labs closing up 1965 to 9104. And the world's largest beverage company, Coca-Cola, says it will cut costs by $1 billion by 2016. This after fourth quarter net income plummeted 8.4% to $1.71 billion, or 38 cents a share, down from $1.87 billion, or 41 cents a share a year earlier. Coca-Cola closing down $1.46 to 37.47. Taking a look at commodities, gold up $4.40 to 13.23, and oil above the $100 mark again to 102.63. Oil seems to be hovering around $100 the last couple of weeks. So just how much is the weather actually to blame for weak economic news? And if so, when will this economy thaw? Kathy Boyle is with Chapin Hill Advisors. Welcome back to Arise XChange.
Nice to be here, Andrew.
Okay, so let's first ask the obvious question. How much of what we're seeing in the economy can we relate to the weather?
You know, very short term, I think we certainly can. You know, it's been a tough winter. You know, my driveway, I almost slid right down it today. It's tough, you know. So snowplow people are making up, but consumers are not really shopping as much. So some of this consumer spending is certainly related, but I don't think the underlying economy is really heating up. There's been such a correlation, 90% correlation of the market move over the last 5 years with the Fed's easing.
So, okay, so to that end then, are economists blaming a lot of the slowdown in the economy on the weather because they got it wrong?
You know, everybody always has to have rationale, but I think you have to look at valuations. Valuations are pricey.
That's right.
GMO has done a great study going forward. Next 7 years, they think large caps are going to give you a negative 1.7% return. Small caps, negative 4.9% return. Emerging markets, positive 3.6%. But these are 7-year estimates that can come in any way. It can be very lumpy. So I think people are pretty much agreed there's going to be volatility in 2014. We certainly could go up to 1,900 on the S&P before we take some kind of pause. Investors are nervous, very nervous, and I think we got a lot of hot money.
We're probably not going to see the 30% gains we've seen last year.
No.
That's not going to happen again.
No.
Let me talk about the economic news before we turn to the market a little bit. Do you think then whatever is connected to the weather, when we get to the spring, that there will be some pent-up demand and that home building will pick back up?
You know, I'm a bear on home building. I don't think the demand is there. We've got so many of the 18 to 35-year-olds are living at home, jobless, unemployed, creative employment. You know, they're working off the books. They're working as consultants. They're working as au pairs. So I don't think the driver's there. They're not getting married. They're not creating families. And the banks are still being very tough on lending criteria. So I don't think that home building is really going to be a big sector.
You have been You've been so you're a little bit bearish right now on the next quarter, would you say, for the stock market? Because the stock market seems to have a disconnect, again, from the economy. It's gotten back into that Y disconnect where the economy is kind of like and the stock market is going up.
Right. Well, it's all fueled. Last week Yellen said, steady Eddie. We're still going to continue to taper, but gradually. And yes, and Ben Bernanke is a student of the Great Depression. So he did the opposite of what caused the crash in 29. So he fueled liquidity instead of tight credit. But that hasn't really improved the job situation. We've added 7.8 million, but that doesn't account for all the new job creation that should have been there. So the economy's not really heating up. People have been willing to pay a high price for stocks. How much higher will they be willing to pay? Growth is there. Fourth quarter came in about 9%, but at what level do they continue to have this optimistic approach to PEs?
This week, by the way, is the 5th anniversary of what has been called the stimulus plan when Congress authorized it. Looking back on it, some say it was not enough stimulus. Some say it was too much stimulus. Where do you kind of fall into it?
I think we have a giant deleveraging that's going to happen. The debt service on our deficit alone at these low rates is still $200 and some odd billion a year. If rates creep back up, that debt service continues to go up. Corporations sitting on a lot of cash, but they're not spending it other than buybacks. So we have a giant delevering. We have 1.5 million baby boomers turning 65 every year. We have the graying of America as they ease into distribution mode. Social Security is underfunded, Medicaid is going to be taxed, Medicare is going to be taxed. So we have a lot of systemic problems and issues to deal with going forward.
Okay, so if you're an investor and you're in the stock market, what sectors are you now liking for this quarter?
Well, gold was down 35% last year. That was one of the hot dots. People got into gold. It had a great 12-year run, and last year took a big dump, and a lot of investors' hot money went out of it. And who's buying it? China, India,
but doesn't
physical
that
stores.
kind of factor in a return of inflation or more stimulus money?
Well, it could just be security. Remember, gold is physically secure. And we have some issues on the emerging markets. There's bumpiness over there, China's shadow banking. There are a lot of potential time bombs. Right now, it's still not making sense. Greece is the number one performing market this year, up 7% with a 60% unemployment
So
rate.
once again, look at values. Or look at things that kind of beat it
values are
down.
extended. So emerging markets, not quite a value yet, a little bit. I think gold, some commodities got very bashed last year. Commodities are going to be in demand. How much more in certain sectors like nat gas had a big run up? Could oil be the one? You don't want to bet the ranch on these, but you want to really go towards indexing and cover like low volatility, and managers, if you're going to pay for a manager, make sure they're worth their weight in gold. Make sure that they have downside protection, because it's all about downside risk at this point.
Right. Okay. Kathy Boyle, Chapin Hill Advisors. Thank you.
Great to be here.
See you soon. Iran has begun formal talks with Vienna with 6 world powers to try to reach a comprehensive agreement to limit its controversial nuclear program. The country has been pushing to lift sanctions, but experts warn this could undermine diplomacy. If a breakthrough comes, what kind of global economic impact will it have? Brian Jacobson of Wells Fargo Funds Management joins us from Milwaukee. Brian, welcome to Arise Exchange.
Thanks for having me back.
So you think it's premature to start talking about actually investing in Iran? This is a country that, by all accounts is a rogue nation. It has a corrupt power structure. Yet there's a push for the end of sanctions or the lifting of sanctions, which means that some investment dollars could be going into the country.
There could be some investment dollars going in, but I think that it's important to recognize that individual investors, retail investors, are probably not going to have a lot of access to Iranian markets. They very much limit foreign participation in their financial markets. One of the ways to think about investing in Iran is the way in which you might want to think about investing in a lot of emerging markets, frontier markets, is more in which companies are going to profit from continued growth or perhaps the opening up of those economies. And a lot of those companies might be U.S. businesses or European businesses that get contracts or access to this economy that was formerly closed off.
Right, and it is a huge population, about 70 million people, so it is a potentially large economy, though their economy has suffered significantly. If you take out sort of the moral questions and the political questions, are you hearing from companies that they're sort of chomping at the bit to get involved here, or they're having some significant concerns?
They are interested in going in, but they are also very hesitant, mainly because of a lot of those political issues that you alluded to at the beginning there, as far as having a questionable regime, as far as, you take into consideration. They are the second largest economy in the Middle East and North Africa, just behind Saudi Arabia. They're the second largest in terms of population, just behind Egypt. However, the government controls at least 55% of the economy outright, and maybe 35% more through through various state-owned enterprises. So it is a little bit choppy to go in there to think about if, let's say, if you're a U.S. firm who is considering doing waste management in Iran, are you going to be competing against some sort of favored or privileged company on their own turf there? That could be a difficult thing to go into, but it could be an opportunity.
And of course, memories are not that short. There's a question of safety of the people who go in there. But of course, so many companies are in a lot of dangerous areas in the world. I've been talking with someone on LinkedIn who is rather young, who lives in Tehran and is in the aviation industry. There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect among young Iranians who believe that the lifting of sanctions are going to happen at any moment now. Do you believe that the country is sort of getting out the message that this could happen sooner than later?
I think so, because they really have to. I mean, if you think about all the pain that the population has gone through since the imposition of these sanctions, they've had hyperinflation effectively, inflation rates in excess of 50% per month. I mean, this is absolutely terrible for the population, for their living standards. So I think that they do need to get the message out there that, hey, you know, put up with it for a little bit longer. The end is coming close, and it's going to be a lot better after here. So I think that's why they have to, from this almost propaganda perspective, say things are going to get better soon. Now, will they? I believe that they will. If you think about the transformational effect of electing somebody like Rouhani to president, that was amazing as far as the just about face from Ahmadinejad. So ultimately, though, with these talks, it goes up to the Ayatollah Khamenei. I mean, he's ultimately the guy who has the last say.
And we have to remember the president of Iran ultimately is picked by the Ayatollah because they give a very select people who can actually run there. What would make you personally feel comfortable about doing business in Iran? What would you like to see, and your advice to clients maybe that the Iranians do?
Yes, well, the lifting of the sanctions is going to be very important, but also then the transparency. I mean, ultimately, I like to invest in places that I understand the governmental structure, who's making the decisions, and I always prefer to have the protection of private property rights and the rule of law. And right now, they don't exactly have a very good track record for either of those, with the private property rights and for the rule of law.
There was a recent story that the Ayatollah steals a lot of it, so.
Yeah, there have been some of these reports, but you know, so if you're looking for some of the softening of the political environment with the election of Rouhani, I think was very important. But I'm still looking for a little bit more evidence that they're going to still respect foreign investors going in there and actually respecting their property rights.
And probably to stop talking about waging war on their neighbors, so because that is not going to help them
certainly
attract
help
business. Okay, Brian Jacobson, Chief Portfolio Strategist with Wells Fargo Funds Management. We'd like to have you on again soon as this process develops with Iran. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. Coming up, a sweet IPO for the makers of Candy Crush and new fuel standards from the Obama administration. Good for the environment, but bad for your pocketbook. You are watching Arise Exchange. Because we live in a global, interconnected world, business news no longer stops when the markets close on Wall Street. And what we've discovered over the past few years of the financial crisis is that events and news that happen even in the smallest countries impact the United States and the world at large. As we bring together experts and analysts and thought leaders and CEOs in companies across many industries to not only provide the macroeconomic view, but news everyday people can use. Time now for our business ticker. More than 1 in 4 Americans have more credit card debt than cash in the bank in the form of savings. A new survey by Bankrate.com reports that that is up 24% from last year, and a sign that many Americans are still bogged down by stagnant incomes and long-term unemployment. In December, the total revolving debt in the U.S., which is mostly made up of credit card debt, hit $862 billion. The first Bitcoin ATMs in the U.S. will open later this week as the digital currency continues to make moves into the mainstream. The automated teller machines installed in Seattle and Austin, Texas, will allow users to swap Bitcoin for cash or deposit cash to buy more Bitcoin. To confirm users' identities, the kiosks will have scanners to read government-issued ID, such as driver's licenses or a passport. Last fall, the first Bitcoin ATM was installed in Vancouver. Another will start operating in Calgary later this year. And there's also plans to install Bitcoin ATMs in Asia and Europe. I wonder if that's the end of Bitcoin if it goes mainstream like to the ATM. As the economy improves, there's been an upswing in divorces. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the number of Americans getting divorced rose for the third year in a row to about 2.4 million in 2012 after plunging during the recession that ended in 2009 because people just couldn't afford to get divorced. It seems hard times keep many unhappy couples together. On the other hand, a healthy, growing economy prompts households that put off life-changing events to act. And the maker behind the addictive matching puzzle game Candy Crush plans to go public. UK's King Digital Entertainment has filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission the paperwork to go public on the New York Stock Exchange. The company earned $269 million in 2013. Last year, Candy Crush, which was released in 2012, was the top-earning title on any mobile platform. About 500 million users have downloaded it to date. The question, however, is this company a one-trick pony? President Obama announced today he will further tighten fuel efficiency standards for medium and heavy-duty trucks as part of his ongoing effort to address climate change.
And improving gas mileage for these trucks are going to drive down our oil imports even further. That reduces carbon pollution even more, cuts down on businesses' fuel costs, which should pay off in lower prices for consumers.
Joining us by the phone to discuss the impact is the car coach, Lauren Fix, who is in Buffalo. Good afternoon, Lauren.
Good afternoon.
So first, walk us through what these economic standards that the president is pushing through. And again, by the way, he did not need congressional approval to do this. The Clean Air Act gives him that right. But talk to us about what he is planning on here.
Okay. Now, initially, many people are aware that the federal government is hoping that by the year 2025 that we'll have boosted most automakers to 54.5 miles per gallon on average. That's called CAFE standards or corporate average fuel economy. Although that may not be possible, that's why you're seeing Ferraris even coming up with EV versions, electric vehicles, because they're trying to do anything they can to offset that number. But on the other hand, when it comes to these big trucks, what he's talking about doing is improving the efficiency by 20% by 2018. That would be a claim of $50 billion in fuel costs over 5 years and decreased carbon dioxide emissions.
Is that possible?
That sounds great, but I don't know if it's possible.
Well, I was going to ask you that. What do you understand the automakers are doing about this? They must be providing some guidance. I know they've been fighting against it, but somebody in the administration must know something about building cars. Not.
Well, that's not the truth. I wish they did. I wish they would literally come down to the auto industry and pick up some people who are very knowledgeable. And there's plenty of us out here that really know the industry and get some input, not just from a government and a politics standpoint. Unfortunately, when it comes to politics, sometimes it's about the government creating new regulations, but they haven't actually gone through the impact and the ripple effect that it will be. Do you think from an environmental standpoint, this is great?
And Lauren, by the way, I mean, while the automakers have been fighting this, there are other industries that have been lobbying for this. For example, the packaging industry, FedEx, very thrilled today by these standards because they've done the math and they say if this is actually doable, they're going to save a bunch of money. So there are some competing interests here.
Right, but yet there's a couple things to think about. So when you're implying these fuel savings, also note that if they're saving fuel and using less of it, that means your local fuel taxes will probably go up, which they have in the past. Because they have to pay for the road and bridges. So when there's less fuel consumption, somehow they have to offset that. So it's not necessarily a win-win for everyone, and the government is worried about the earth, and that's great. But the ripple effect on the consumers means you're going to pay more for everything that's being transported, because if I have to rebuild a motor, I have to add skirts to my big truck. Remember, these vehicles are using diesel. Diesel costs a lot of money, and they're being taxed not just by the mile, but also for diesel fuel itself.
Do we have any idea
for regular gasoline? You're looking at that obviously trickling down to you as the consumer. And these are facts that need to be considered when a consumer is being the one that's paying the bill because of this. Now, I realize some of it we are going to have to in order to keep the environment clean, but tighter fuel efficiency standards for medium and heavy-duty trucks always have an economic impact on the manufacturing and service companies, which means you're going to pay.
Well, and let me ask you this. Do we have any idea of how much more these trucks are going to cost the consumers, how many fewer trucks they may sell, and, you know, I hate to say it, but that's going to translate into fewer jobs in the auto industry?
Yes, and that is exactly the thing. We don't know what the speculated numbers are yet because they promised they would sit down and talk with the industry. But remember, the idea was to take this money. Of course, he also wants to redirect money going to oil and fuel industry and have it set aside for new technology. remember, when we come into new technology, we don't want to have any more Cylindras, battery 1, 2, 3, or Fiskars. We really want the money to go to companies that really are working on alternative fuels, maybe lowering the cost of diesel here in the U.S., which, again, that's a politics situation, and creating some new technologies that actually will allow big trucks, which have to haul, so they need torque, and, so they're going to have to come up with some new technologies to make that work as well. The key is let's not give up on safety for other drivers on the road or for these big tractor trailers in order to save a few dollars. Sometimes you got to really look at the whole big picture and who's being impacted by this.
Okay, Lauren Fix, the car coach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ahead, the man who protested a new museum by breaking a $1 million piece of art. Our favorite person of the day is next here on Arise Exchange.
The great thing about Arise Entertainment 360 is that we cover the 360 of entertainment, food, fashion, lifestyle, culture. We're able to cover it all. And the thing I love most about the show is we're able to do a stunning combination of high and low. So we can talk about Rihanna on the red carpet, but we can also speak about high art with people like Sanford Biggers and Hank Willis. We actually spend quality time with our guests and we really get to know them. It's really intriguing because we get a 360 look at our guests.
Time now for our favorite person of the day, when we pick one person who grabbed our attention and not for the right reasons. Today, that person is Maximo Caminero. Caminero is said to be a local artist in Miami. He learned that the Perez Museum in Miami would feature only international artists. He did not like that too much, so he decided to protest in the only way he apparently knew how. He went to the museum, picked up a $1 million vase painted by dissident Chinese artist Ai Weiwei, and, as caught on this amateur video, smashed it to the ground. Why? He wasn't happy with the museum's politics and angry that they would not support local artists. We take that to mean him. Caminero had planned to hold a news conference today to explain his actions, but now he has lawyered up. He initially had said, however, that this was a spontaneous protest, just kind of popped into his head, and similar to a painting by Weiwei that depicts Weiwei smashing artwork. Caminero has been charged with a felony. As for Weiwei, he takes the incident rather philosophically, saying his work is fragile and is often damaged, and that, quote, maybe the museum has insurance. And so, Maximo Caminero is our favorite artist of the day. Next, tracking your child's whereabouts with GPS, how to locate loved ones from the comfort of your home. Up next here on Arise Exchange.
Arise serves underserved communities by bringing them news, information, sports, and entertainment from places that are becoming part of the world economy, that are becoming a part of the world voice, and decisions that are affecting things in the world that people care about. They care about the economy. They care about safety and security. And if you come to Arise and you watch our broadcast, these are the things we're going to bring to you every day, 24 hours a day.
One of the great things about Arise Entertainment 360 is we have this Arise to Your Health segment, which really focuses on the holistic approach of being healthy. So we do everything from working out to juicing to getting in shape by doing fun exercises like bouncing on a trampoline or wearing these bouncy boots on our feet when we're jumping all over the set. We've done karate, we've danced the weight off, we've done just about everything. And of course, I love when we eat on set, but we do it in a very healthy and clean way.
The statistics are alarming. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, a child goes missing in this country every 40 seconds. And experts say the first 3 hours are the most critical when trying to locate a missing child. One company is helping to keep children safe with the use of GPS tracking, a device called Smart Locator Amber Alert. Amber Alert GPS President and CEO Alan Barretts joins us here to talk with us. Alan, thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about how this device works in tracking children.
Sure. So the device is a GPS cellular device. It does GPS location information and it does cellular telephony. It's actually a speakerphone. There are basically 3 key characteristics of this device. The first is two-way voice. So parent can call into the device, child can call out of the device with a simple touch of one button, which is really important because if a kid's feeling threatened, you don't want him fumbling for buttons, just one button, hits the alert. Secondly, frequent location updates. This device does location updates every 5 minutes. It's really important because a lot can happen in a short period of time. So other trackers on the market, they may do 30-minute location updates because their battery can't last long if they're doing location updates any more frequently. But we do 5-minute location updates and have 40-hour battery life.
So, and when you say 5-minute location updates, meaning it updates every 5 minutes. It's not real-time GPS.
Every 5 minutes you get a new location update.
And why can't it be quicker than that? Because spot GPS, which hikers use, is real-time. Is that a battery issue?
Battery drain.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I imagine the next generations might get a little bit better.
So you want this battery to last 2 days. And right now, 5 minutes is the best, and we're the ones that provide it.
What age group is appropriate for the children to be using this?
So this device is great for 2 to 10-year-olds and seniors. You could have active adults, hikers, bikers, skiers use it, but we typically say 2 to 10-year-olds and seniors.
Okay, and seniors who obviously maybe need some help in following them.
Exactly right. Today, many seniors have devices around their neck that they use in home. If they fall, they press the button. It contacts a device right there in the home. Here, you can take it outside of the home.
Have you found both parents and children accepting of the device? Because, I mean, the first question, and 2 to 10-year-olds you can kind of understand, is a privacy issue, especially as you get closer to 10 or maybe 13. The children don't want to be tracked. Any pushback on that, and how do you have that conversation with kids?
I'll tell you, it's a really interesting story. So when I was first talking to my daughter about this, who happens to be 23 years old, she said, "There's no way, Dad. No way you're going to track me with this device." So I said, okay, fine, let's not worry about it. A couple weeks later, I started telling her about a large corporation that was interested in giving this as a backup safety device to their employees. Working out in the field, get in trouble, simple one-button alert. She said, well, gee, sometimes I'm out late at night, and it might not be a bad idea to carry something like that around. Entirely different view. Fact of the matter is that these devices let kids be kids. You can let your kids go, do what they want to do, the way it used to be when I was young, and yet you have a second set of eyes and ears to help you monitor what's going on. You can stay in touch with them through voice. You can know what their comings and goings are, and feel comfortable that you're going to be able to take care of them.
So tell me about the track record. Have so far this device helped find kids?
Yeah, so we brought the very first smart locator market about 5 years ago, and we now have thousands of customers across the U.S. And we have many stories of where kids have gone missing, and parents have contacted us. Sometimes they just recover them themselves. Sometimes they contact us and ask for help. Right? We have a helpline that will help you locate if need be. And
does it also interact and interface with police?
Okay, so the device does not directly interface to police, but in addition to our smart locator business, we support the Department of Justice and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children by providing the law enforcement alerting portal. That's where law enforcement in a number of states in this country goes to actually issue Amber Alerts. We provide that portal entirely free of charge. It's a public service that we provide. It's funded out of the revenues from the product. So we're linked into the Department of Justice National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for issuing Amber Alerts, and then we have our products business.
And we should note that tracking devices have become very commonplace. So cars have things like OnStar, and OnStar can tell you exactly where the car is. GPS, airplanes, of course, factor them in. Where are kids going missing these days, if I could ask? Where are they being taken from?
Well, first of all, it's amazing. 90% of families will at some point experience a missing child. And, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it has to me, and there's that intense feeling of panic when it happens. And, what you need to be able to do is get in touch with your kid immediately and find out where they are. And it's these products that allow that to happen. Kids go missing at home. They go missing in the shopping center, the mall, amusement parks. It's all about.
Do you also teach them to hide it? Because if somebody's going to take them as this gets more popular, we have about 30 seconds left, they're going to, some child abductor will know to take it away.
So what's nice about this device is there are lots of flexible attachment options. You can hide it. You can put it in a pocket. We have parents that sew it into clothing. You can put it in a backpack, or you can put it on a belt loop. We have parents that put it on shoes. So lots of flexible attachment options based on, what you're concerned about and basically your kid's lifestyle.
Affordable?
Very affordable. $130. If you buy it from an AT&T store before the end of March, you actually get a $100 rebate. So then it's only $30 and $10 a month for service.
Okay, Alan Barretts, thank you so much.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for stopping by.
Thank you.
Tomorrow on Arise Exchange, the annual toy fair is in town. We'll look at the biggest trends and what's hot and what's not in the world of toys. Let's take a look at the markets. I'm Andrew Schmertz. Thanks for watching Arise Exchange. See you tomorrow. Terrific.